You think you deserve respect just because you've been here for decades? Sneered Richard Blackwell, the operations manager at Hartwell corporate offices. You're lucky we even keep you around. Let's face it, Karen, you're not exactly irreplaceable. The words cut through Karen like a knife, but she kept her head down, gripping the handle of her cleaning cart tightly. Karen Williams, a 68-year-old African-American woman, had worked at Hartwell for over 40 years. She knew every inch of the building, from the executive suites to the storage closets that hadn't been touched in years. But to people like Richard, she was invisible, or worse, a target. Karen's job was more than just work to her. It was her way of supporting her family after losing her daughter to cancer 3 years ago. She was now the sole caretaker for her 2 grandsons, Malcolm, 14, and Jaden, 10. Every aching joint and sleepless night reminded her of why she couldn't afford to quit, no matter how cruel Richard was. Before we dive into Karen's remarkable story, let us know where you're watching from today. If stories of courage, resilience, and kindness inspire you, subscribe to Story Dash, because tomorrow we'll have another incredible story waiting for you. That morning had started like any other. Karen arrived at the office at 6 a.m., long before most employees. She enjoyed the quiet before the chaos, the calm before phones started ringing and people began rushing to meetings. But today, Karen's quiet routine was shattered. As she cleaned the executive break room, Richard barged in, a scowl on his face. He didn't greet her, he never did. Instead, he immediately began criticizing her work. "There's a streak on the coffee machine, Karen. Do you even know how to clean properly? Or is this too complicated for you?" Richard sneered, standing over her with a condescending smirk. Karen took a deep breath, holding back the frustration and pain that had built up over years of enduring his abuse. "I'll take care of it, Mr. Blackwell," she said softly, keeping her tone respectful. Richard scoffed. "You better. I've got important clients coming in today, and I don't want them thinking we're running a second-rate operation." Karen silently went back to work, her hands trembling slightly as she scrubbed the machine. She thought of her grandsons, of the sacrifices she made to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. She couldn't afford to lose this job, no matter how badly Richard treated her. Later that day, Karen was in the lobby, mopping the floors, when she noticed a young man in a suit standing awkwardly near the reception desk. He seemed nervous, clutching a briefcase tightly. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, his voice kind. "Do you know where I can find the operations manager?" Karen glanced at him, her eyes softening. "That would be Mr. Blackwell," she replied. "His office is on the 2nd floor, 3rd door on the right." The young man nodded, but before he could leave, Karen added, "If you're meeting with him, don't let him intimidate you. He has a way of being difficult." The man smiled faintly. "Thanks for the warning," he said, and then he was gone. An hour later, Karen found herself back on the 2nd floor, emptying trash bins and wiping down desks. As she approached Richard's office, she heard raised voices. Curious, she slowed her pace, her heart racing as she caught snippets of the conversation. "You have no right to speak to your employees that way," the young man was saying, his tone firm. "Excuse me?" Richard's voice dripped with arrogance. "And who do you think you are to lecture me? You're just here to shadow for the day, not to tell me how to do my job." "I'm more than a shadow," the man replied, his voice steady. "I'm Jordan Carter, the CEO's son, and starting next month, I'll be overseeing this branch." The air seemed to leave the hallway. Karen's jaw dropped. "The CEO's son?" Richard's bluster faltered, and his voice grew quieter, though Karen could still hear him stammering excuses. "Well, Mr. Carter, I didn't mean—" "Enough," Jordan interrupted. "I've seen how you treat your staff, and I'm not impressed. This company prides itself on respect and inclusion, and you're failing on both counts." Karen quickly pushed her cart down the hall, not wanting to be caught eavesdropping. But her heart raced with a strange mix of hope and fear. Could it be possible that change was coming? Over the next few weeks, Jordan began implementing changes. He held meetings with employees, encouraging them to share their experiences anonymously. Karen hesitated at first, worried about retaliation. But after some encouragement from her grandchildren, she decided to write about her encounters with Richard. Her story was one of many that came to light. Jordan read every submission personally, and it became clear that Richard's toxic behavior had gone unchecked for far too long. Then one morning, Karen was called into a meeting with Jordan. "Mrs. Williams," Jordan said, standing to greet her. "Thank you for coming in. Please have a seat." Karen sat nervously, unsure of what to expect. "I wanted to thank you for sharing your story," Jordan began. "Your courage has inspired others to speak up, and it's helped us uncover serious issues within this office." Karen's hands trembled in her lap. "I was just doing what I thought was right," she said softly. "And because you did," Jordan continued, "we're making changes. Effective immediately, Mr. Blackwell is no longer with the company. Additionally, we're implementing mandatory training for all managers to ensure a respectful workplace." Karen's eyes widened. "He's gone?" Jordan nodded. "He's gone, and there's one more thing." He slid a folder across the desk toward her. "This is a retirement package we've put together for you. Full benefits and a scholarship fund for your grandchildren." Tears welled in Karen's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Just say you'll take some well-deserved time to rest and enjoy your family," Jordan said with a smile. The story of Karen's courage spread throughout the company, inspiring employees at every level to speak up against injustice. Karen's retirement was celebrated with a company-wide party where her colleagues showered her with gratitude and admiration. As Karen stood to give a speech, she looked out at the room filled with smiling faces. "I never thought someone like me could make a difference," she said. "But I've learned that standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, is always worth it. Thank you all for showing me that kindness and courage can change the world." The room erupted in applause, and Karen left that day not just as a retiree, but as a hero. What did you think of Karen's story? Have you ever witnessed or experienced unfair treatment in the workplace? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Story Dash, and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories like this one.